Hey guys, so this is the heavy metal issue, number something, and what's cool about this heavy metal magazine is that this is the music issue, the music special. And what's cool about that is basically like it's got comics, you know, it's regular comics. I'll just show you, like, you know, comic book style stuff, heavy metal style, comic book style stuff, you know. But what's cool is that, yeah, look at that stuff. Weird. So what's cool is though that each one of these is every story in it has to do with a band, a musical band, musical artists. So these are some of the relevant bands, I guess, that kind of like go with Heavy Metal Magazine because their kind of imagery and their music are evocative of the kind of stories that heavy metal talks about. So you'll see like the bands that are in, and each of these bands have their own comic book. Little comic strip in there. It's kind of like a little story with them. So it's got like Iron Maiden, and it's got a story about Eddie, the mascot of Iron Maiden, 9 Inch Nails, Rob Zombie, Gorilla, Hollywood Undead, and then there's like Ozzy Osborne, Motley Crue, Marilyn Manson, In Flames, Vamps, yeah. And yeah, so that's what it, and they all have, they're basically exactly, they each have, it's like in that order too. Like they each have a comic book strip, and this is cool. This is where Grant Morrison actually took over Heavy Metal Magazine as Grant Morrison. If you recognize this guy, he took over Heavy Metal Magazine and became the editor. And I really think that it was really expected that heavy metal was going to have a resurgence. They're going to have a, you know, like they were kind of like slumping a little bit, but they were kind of like expecting a resurgence of the comics in the magazine. And I think there really was one with Grant Morrison, because he writes comics, and he's been writing comics, and he's been writing really good comics for a while. He wrote The Invisibles, he wrote a bunch of other stuff, and he's always into that rock star kind of thing, you know? So it kind of makes sense that they put like all of these like rock ones in here. So I'll show you some of these. This is like the Iron Maiden one, and that's that little creature guy over there is Eddie, the mascot of Iron Maiden, and they've been around since the 70s from London, England, and from other parts of England. And they came to America, and the early 80s, it kind of like all, you know, they kind of came into America with all of that stuff. And then you could see, you know, real cool, interesting things like this is, he's a whole character in there, and he's got a whole story and everything. They talk about like Orwell's 1985, you know, and there's just a bunch of really cool stuff. Let me show you, some of the art is okay. Some of the art is a little bit, it's actually cool. Like, what's good about the art is that every story, I think, is written basically, is drawn by a different artist. So the art is different. So it's not like when you're reading this whole magazine, each of the stories was written by a different writer and drawn by a different artist. So the art is all different. And I think this is Bilal. It really does look like Bilal, but who knows? And then there, of course, there's like this one had Gajira kind of has its own art gallery in this one. So there's some art here which is just art and not like comic book sequential art. And that's actually pretty cool that they have an art gallery. And that's what they did have that before. Heavy metal always had some kind of art gallery in their books where it was just a few pages of a really cool like fine art illustration and stuff. And as you can see, like the art is like, it goes from this one artist here, and then it goes right to a completely different story with a completely different artist telling a different story and stuff like that. So yeah, as you can see more about that that story there. Dude with a guitar, which makes sense because it's about music. There's some kind of there's a Queens of the Stone Age little article going on. So they talk about that. And it's about like Queens of the Stone Age. It's an interview about their album and how they made their album and everything. So that's cool. And there's like, and then you can see like here, this is like Queens of the Stone Age, the cover, and then it goes into like the comic, the story about it. You know, what's really cool is that like most of these people, and like here's Black Sabbath, which is, they don't have actually a comic in here, but this is just a, I guess this is just like, yeah, it's their album and they're just advertising it. It makes sense that they advertise their album in a comic book like this, where this kind of stuff is there. Yeah, so this is like Grant Morrison. This is the new guy who took up the editor deal, and anything by Grant Morrison, seriously, is really good. It's weird, it's far out, it's completely weird, but it's actually really, really good at the same time. And that's like really unique with Grant Morrison about how everything is. And then there's more like later, the art is completely different from story to story, which is what's cool about Heavy Metal Magazine, because it doesn't just have the same art and the same story. You're not gonna have to like read a whole book of the same story. You basically read these little short stories, and that's kind of how they've been working it. And then you can see like lots of action going on. It's not like Talking Heads where like, you know, one person says something, one person says something. No, this is a lot of action. There's a lot of art. There's a lot of impressionist art. There's some abstract art. There's some, you know, fantasy art in here. There's a lot of sci-fi art, and you know, this is legit art actually. So if you guys are into art, like you can see like this over here. This really looks like it was inspired by the Inkle and Mobius. You can see how like these pictures here look a lot like Mobius art. If you've never seen Mobius art, Google Mobius art, and you're gonna just see the coolest like comic book art ever. It's just really unique and original. But you know, even though it's a lot like Mobius, it's different, and it has its own thing to bring, and it's inspired by that, which is kind of how art evolves, by inspiration from one kind to another. And so now this is issue number 287. You know, and it is $8.95 when you get it new. You could probably get this as a back issue, or you might be able to get it from Heavy Metal, because they always sell you back issues. They're never out of print. I mean, you can get like, you could still get their back issues from the 70s and the 80s if you really like wanted to do that. I think this cover is cool, and because it's the Heavy Metal, the music issue, the music special, it has some kind of crazy like, this is a keyboard synthesizer cool thing there. If you guys never have heard of Heavy Metal Magazine, check it out. If you guys like comic books, it's very far out. It's very inspired by science fiction, fantasy, horror a little bit. Also like weird, funny ones, like weird, funny comics sometimes. So yeah. But if you like any of these bands, Maiden, Nine Inch Nails, Rob Zombie, and whatever, Marilyn Manson, Ozzy, Motley Crue, if you guys like any of these bands and you like comic books, check it out, because it is, I don't think it was actually done by the band, but it has to do with the band. It has to do with some of the music in the, it has to do with the style of the band. It's basically each band made its own story. Now, I don't know if they got an artist and a writer, and they somehow collaborated, and basically the bands, which basically make music, did something visual. So that's really, really cool. So yeah, so if you guys like what's also on the back, now you can see like this came out a few years ago, so but it's still available. You can get these so easily anywhere. It came out when these concerts, when Ozfest was all around, and another one, just a bunch of these, and they came out when a few of these, like here's some of the other issues that it came out. What they've been doing recently is doing like different issues. Like this is the love issue. This is a different one. Like each issue is different. Like there's the magic special, right? There's the fear special. There's the love special, There's another one here, which is like actually, this is drawn, if you see over here on this one, that is like Tarna from Heavy Metal, the motion picture. And there was like a cool animated movie that was made by Heavy Metal made by this magazine in the style of the magazine, and everything. So it's pretty cool, pretty awesome. Always good art, really, really awesome. And so yeah, so check it out. This is really, really awesome. This is number 287 if you can get it. And yeah, so if you guys like my video, please subscribe to my channel. I've got other videos like this. Check out some of my other videos. And I will see you guys in the next video, and take care.